Hey again, really good to be with you today. For those of you joining from Middleville, welcome. Glad to be together. For those of you joining online, thanks. Hope you're comfortable, settled in a little bit. I'm glad week 2 of this series we just started last week called All In. Week 2, where we're just saying, what does it look like in this season of life, in this period of time for us as individuals, but probably more importantly for us as a community of people to say, what's it look like to be all in? And if you're a guest with us today, again, Katie talked to you a little bit about how to pick up a guest bag and those kind of things, which I absolutely hope that you do. But I'm also glad you're here because you get a little inside look, really, at part of what makes our heart beat and part of what makes Journey tick as we attempt to do this thing of follow Jesus and really respond in a loving way to his love for us. And part of that is to say, man, he went all in for us. How can we, in turn, go all in for him? Like, how can we respond to his all-in love in a very all-in, like, hey, here's the whole of our life sort of way? And that's what we're navigating in this series. And I want you to think just for a second about the last time maybe you were in a pool. For some of you, that's a recent vacation. For some of you, that was last summer. For some of you, that was a decade ago. For some of you don't care if you're ever in a pool again, whatever it is. But if you can just get yourself into that pool, I want to point out something it's probably really obvious, really obvious, but it has some meaningful application for us. Because today, to be very candid with you, I'm going to invite us into something that Jesus has invited us into, and it is something that in many ways I don't love. I don't love. And I know it's like the clergy people aren't supposed to say that. But there's certain things about what Jesus invited us into, it's like, oh, that's not as appealing as some of the others. And this is one of those that... at least initially, it's not quite as appealing as some of the others. But it's important for us to gauge it. It's a little bit like, hey, can I really follow Jesus and leave things out? Which is a little bit like being in a pool and you're in the pool and it's refreshing and it feels good. And do you know how you do certain things like on the edge of the pool? You might prop yourself up on the edge of the pool and you're partway in the pool. It just feels good to be refreshing. Or if you're a reader, you might get a book and you might prop yourself up on the edge of the pool. So most of your body's in the water, but the book is up on the ledge and you're reading the book at the pool. I mean, come on, somebody, that is good stuff, right? Okay, and that's where some of us we want to live with the pool, or we may grab a hold of the ledge and kick our feet. And again, we're largely in the pool. We're getting a lot of the benefit of the pool. But here's this truth about the pool and the edge of the pool that just intuitively, nobody's ever had to tell you this before. You can't hang on to the edge of the pool and swim in the pool at the same time, right? Eventually, you got to let go of the ledge. Anything else you're doing while you're holding the ledge is not actually swimming. You're holding on to the ledge. And it might feel refreshing. It actually probably is refreshing. But there's this entire pool left for us. There's this entire pool. And sometimes we encounter these invitations of Jesus, and it's really come out here and swim with me. And we're no, I'm going to hang on to the edge. I got a book over here. I got a drink over here. It's closer to my flow. And my phone's here, and I really don't want to bring the phone in the pool. I'm going to hang out over here. And yet you can't really swim if we won't let go of the edge of the pool. It's impossible to hold on to the edge and swim at the same time. And part of what Jesus is inviting us into in this all-in series, into an all-in life, and very specifically today, is to let go of the edge of the pool. So what is it that Jesus would possibly be inviting us into? Let me just give you a few words from Jesus, not even a whole sentence. Let me give you 3 words from Jesus, Matthew chapter 6, middle-ish of his longest recorded sermon. He says these 3 words: when you fast. When you fast. When you fast. Which, for those of you who think, well, that one's tough. Before that was when you give. Which some of you are just glad we're not talking about that. Okay, let's talk about fasting. Okay, when you pray, when you fast. There's these 3 assumed statements of Jesus. It's not a teaching on you should or why we will. It's a well, of course you're going to fast. When you fast. Now, if you jump ahead, what we have is a chapter in the New Testament of your Bible to Matthew chapter 7, towards the end, we get this little summary phrase from Jesus, and he's got this analogy that goes with it that we want to unpack today, but we've got this little statement at the end. This is what Jesus says. Everyone who hears, like the whole message that Jesus has preached in 5, 6, and 7, everyone who hears these words of mine and puts them into practice is wise. Is wise. Well, I want to be wise. I want to be wise. And Jesus doesn't ever present the counter, but you and I can kind of figure it out. The counter to that is anyone who hears these words of mine and doesn't put them into practice is, not wise is the gentle way to say it, right? He says, is a fool. He says, is a fool, and the analogy plays out, it's a fool. Like, oh, Jesus is that honest. And so Jesus, when you fast, and like, okay, so here's this assumption that we're going to fast, okay, but what would it, why? Well, Jesus says, if you really want to be wise, if you want to grow in wisdom, if you want to grow in favor with me, if you want to grow in stature with me, if you want to grow in, fasting is going to be part of the equation. So then we got to ask, okay, well, what really is fasting then? I'm going to give you 2 quotes from one guy named Dave Clayton, and I think they'll just help us a little bit in this. He says it this way: fasting is a physical declaration of a spiritual longing. Fasting is a physical declaration. It is a physical statement. It is a way we say with our physical being, I long for that. Or more specifically, I long for him. I long for more of Jesus. It's a way of saying with our being, with our physical being, I want more. I don't want things in the way. I don't want to be so cluttered that I miss what Jesus is trying to give us clarity. I don't want to be living life so rushed out that I miss part of his revelation. It's a physical declaration of a spiritual longing. Here's another way that he says it. It unpacks it a little bit more. Fasting is letting go of something in the physical realm to take hold of something in the spiritual realm. Fasting is letting go of something in the physical realm. When Jesus talks about it, the letting go is a food. It's a food. I'm going to go a period of time without food or without a certain type of food or the certain meal, or what. I'm going to go without that as a way of expressing my spiritual longing and opening myself up to taking a hold of something I desperately want spiritually. Listen to me. Sometimes we fast just to take hold of a fresh desire to want something. Sometimes we might resist fasting because we're like, I don't know, like I don't even know if I really want, more of Jesus. I'm kind of neutral right now, lukewarm right now, whatever it is, which is actually the perfect time to fast. Because the fast can recalibrate. It can clear some of that clutter. It can clear some of the fog off the window. It's this saying, I'm going to go without something physical so I can grab a hold of something spiritual. Just as a quick note, this guy Dave Clayton, he wrote a book that it's called Revival Starts Here. It's an incredibly short little book, and it's really about prayer and fasting. I've read this book multiple times devotionally. I've read it sometimes in one setting. It's that short, just trying to absorb everything. It is it's such an accessible yet challenging invitation to the practice of fasting, this thing that Jesus assumed his followers would do. Why did Jesus assume his followers would do that? Well, because Jesus had this assumption that we would long for more of him. Jesus had this assumption that we would long for more of his activity on the earth. That we would long for more awareness of his presence, like we just sang about, that we would long for more of his transformational work in us and in people around us. Jesus assumed we would want to continue to explore his greatness and his glory and his vastness and his limitless power. Jesus assumed we would want to be people who would want to continue to partner with him more and more in what he is doing to bring his kingdom to the earth. Jesus assumed we would want his help in navigating life's difficulties and challenges and setbacks. Jesus assumed, well, of course, that my people are going to want their Savior and want more of him. And they're going to want more of him, which is true, right? And so then you get these statements, right? Now, Dave Clayton doesn't talk about this, and this may be pushing the box a little bit too far for some of us, but just think about them. Then what is reverse fasting? It's when we let go of something spiritual to try and take hold of something physical. If fasting is when we will let go of something physical, when we will give up food or something for a time to grab hold of something spiritual, more of Jesus, then reverse fasting, which is where it's awfully easy to live all the time, is letting go of something spiritual, letting go of a spiritual hope, letting go of a spiritual desire, letting go of a spiritual dream, letting go of a spiritual transformation to grab a hold or keep a hold of something physical, something temporary. So Jesus, man, you're not going to want to live that way in this kind of messed up, broken world. Like, you're going to want to experience more of me. And so, like, I want to invite you. And for 21 days, that's what we're doing. Today is day one for Journey of 21 days of just prayer and fasting, where we are asking, hey, Jesus, out of our longing for you, what would you have us let go of so we could grab hold of you more? What would you have us let go of so we could grab hold of you more? What would you have us push aside so we can be more aware of you? What would you have us say no to so we could say a more concentrated yes to you for a season? What would you have us loosen our grip on so we could strengthen our grip on you? For 21 days, we're just going to express our longing to Jesus. And for those of us who would say, I'm not in a place of longing, then for 21 days, the invitation is to say, what I really want to do is let go of some things so I can take hold of a longing. So I can get a spiritual longing, or so that I can get a longing for Jesus, or so that I can have one rekindled or refostered or redeveloped. But I'm not going to live reverse fasting for the next 21 days. I'm going to fast. I'm going to give up something. Again, when Jesus talked about it, it was food. And I want to encourage you to consider, like, what would I give up food as? Would I give up a meal a day? Would I give up food for a day? Would I give up the same food for all 21 days? And whenever I'm not eating that food or that thing or that, would I allow it to prompt me to prayer and awareness? Would I allow it to prompt me to times of listening or more times in the scripture? Like, would I allow that time to be directed in something else? Would I take hold of something? Let me just drop this out there for you as a note of encouragement. If Jesus assumed we would fast, can you imagine what that must mean for the good he has to give us in a fast? It's just a good reminder that Jesus isn't setting up the fast as a punishment or a diet, by the way. Like, if we fast and if you don't eat for 21 days, but you don't pray anymore, and that was a diet. That was like a crash diet. Good luck. But to get, like, Jesus has something for us. So let's just talk real clearly, though. What are the barriers? Like, what are the things that are going to get in the way? Because, man, some of this stuff is difficult, right? To go without food, to go, like, okay, for this day or whatever else we're going to do, like, what does that actually look like? And again, some of you are going to pick a food or a meal or whatever, and some of you will pick a social media deal, and some of you will pick up, there's all sorts of things people will choose, but it just needs to be something we can let go of so we can grab a hold of something better. But what are the barriers to that? Well, the first one is pride of independence. Man, we love to be independent. We love to be independent. None of us probably remember the first time 3 fateful words came out of our mouth as a toddler. But they did come out of our mouth. And they have come out of the mouth of every toddler since. Parents of young ones, hold on, friends. Those 3 fateful words that changed the course of our relationship with people, including our parents, were simply the words, I do it. I do it. Here, let me put on your coat. I do it. Here, let me cut your food. I do it. And then put your shoes. I do it. Hey, let me put that. I do it. Right? And that works. That works until somewhere in the early teenage years when the word changes to, you do it. Right? And they want to flip it back. Like, well, that time's over, friends. That passed. You missed that ship. That's over, right? You broke that with, I do it. Okay? But here's the thing, like, as adults, we still do it. We just say it differently. Hey, Jesus, I'll navigate this relationship. I'll check in with you later. I'll navigate the relationship. Hey, Jesus, I got a future planned. I built this thing out because I do it, and now I'm going to count on you to bless that. I'm going to count on you to, like, come through on this thing, okay? Hey, Jesus, I got this major decision I'm making. I did it. Now I'm counting on you to bless that because I do it. I do it. I do it. I do it. We do the same thing, which is why it's a little hard to fast, because when we fast, there is just this reality that we are going to have to find some type of strength from Jesus to complete the fast. Whether we choose to fast for a meal, a day, 21 days, whatever fast you choose, it will require some strength. It is not initially fun. Right? And so there's these moments where we'll have to have the strength. And our tendency to say, I do it. I do it. I want to invite us into the fast, if nothing else, is to be reminded that we don't have to live an I do it life with Jesus. Like that's not what he invited us into, but we've got this pride of independence that pushes against us doing something, right? Another one is love of ease. Man, we love our ease. We love our ease. Can I just, like, this is, like, helpful for all of us, I hope. Comfort is a king. Man, we love our comfort. It's a king. And listen, comfort's good. God's even the God of all comfort. But that was said about people who were hurting and in trouble and in trial and getting knocked around, right? But comfort in and of itself is a really deceptive king. Because do you know what comfort actually does? If comfort is the primary pursuit, is comfort actually lulls us to sleep. The passion to avoid friction in our lives. It actually lulls us to sleep. It weakens us. Friction's actually helpful for us. We need it somewhere. You ever had a box of matches, and that's all you got, and you got to start the fire? Do you know what you need? You need friction between the top of that match and the side of that box. If you do something as simple as wear glasses or contacts, there's low-level friction keeping them in place, helping you see. We need the friction. No, don't get me wrong. Don't get me wrong. We talked about pools earlier. Man, nobody loves a lazy river more than me. Give me the tube. Give me the lazy river. Can we get all the kids out just for an hour? And let me have the lazy river. I love that. But you know, if we live in a lazy river, man, there's a mess coming. We need some of that friction, yet we have this love of ease. I just want to say to us, like, let's be very honest with one another. Your fasting season will not be marked by all ease. And that's okay. Maybe it's more than okay. Maybe it's actually good. Maybe there is a refining. Maybe there is a growing. Maybe there is a cultivation that happens in the friction. You ever remember, some of you are in this season right now, you ever remember getting growing pains as a kid? You're growing so fast, your legs hurt. Some of you are like, no, I'm still waiting for that growth spurt. I get it, okay. But like, it's something that your body's working so hard and so fast, but it's actually like pain that's leading to good growth, right? Inside the fast, like the barrier can be, I think it's supposed to be ease. I think it's supposed to be comfort. I think it's supposed to be, no. It's supposed to be letting go of one thing to grab hold of something better. That's the aim. Comfort and ease is not the aim. Grabbing more hold of Jesus is the aim. So there are barriers, but as with everything with Jesus, there are breakthroughs. There are some positives. We can flip the scale. Like, there is good coming. Remember, if Jesus invited us into this, he must have something good for us. He must have something good he wants to deposit and put into our lives and reveal for us and expose us to. And one of them is just bigger friendship. It's just bigger friendship. It's bigger friendship with him. Like, fasting does stir and cultivate bigger friendship with God himself. I think sometimes about some of the best friendships I have, and I think about some of them I've had the longest, and it really feels like it boils down to a few qualities. Number one, inside those really good friendships, we've just stacked memories on top of each other. And so when you think about them, there's just like this good, excited, the heart gets warm because you've stacked these memories on each other, right? It's like, okay, yeah, what if I could do that with Jesus? There's another thing, though, in this part of what we're talking about. When I think about my best friends, the longest-term friends, you know what I also think about is longing to be with them. You almost can't be with them too much. And you just, you long to be with them, or you long to have a conversation with them, or you long to check in, or you long, right? You got these stacked up memories, and you got these longings. And then when it finally comes time, you can be together, you're full of this anticipation because you know it'll be good, even if sometimes it's hard. You know it'll be good. You know the conversation will be good, even if it's sometimes hard. You know the shared experience will be good, even if it's sometimes hard. And inside of fasting, one of the breakthroughs is we're stacking up more memories with Jesus. We're stacking up more time with him. We're stacking up more conversation. We're stacking up more awareness of his presence. We're cultivating and expressing a longing in us to be with him and more fully present with him, which builds this anticipation for every time we're locked in and focused on him. I think it's part of what the psalmist was writing about in Psalm 42. Look at this, just a few lines. And for some of you, this is a really familiar passage. As the deer pants for streams of water, so my soul pants and longs for you. After I have run, and after I have been in a life of running, and after my pace has been frantic, and after I've tried to escape something, I finally get to the water, and what I find myself is I am panting. I am longing. And Jesus, when I slow down just for a millisecond in life, what I could be honest about is coming to grips with the fact that my soul is longing for more of you. My soul is wanting more. I was made to want you. My soul is wanting more of you. My soul thirsts for God, for the living God. When can I go and meet with God? My tears have been food day and night, while people say to me all day long, where in the world even is your God? These things I remember as I pour out my soul. Here it is. He's going to play his memories. How I used to go to the house of God under the protection of the Mighty One with shouts of joy and praise among the festive throng. Here's David writing oh, man, I've been with you. I've taken hold of you. Life is difficult. And I want to let go of some of this life so I can more fully take hold of you again. I want to acknowledge that my longing, my desperation, my thirst is actually for you, not everything else that I've been holding on to. As good as it might be, it's not actually fresh water that actually fully satisfies. And so I will give that up. And I just want you to imagine for a minute. Imagine your life 21 days from now. And what if in mere 21 days your friendship with God expanded somehow? It may be dramatic and overwhelming. It may be minor. But it'll be good. It'll be good. It will be good. The question is, will we? The question is not, will God be good? The question is, will we? let me just say it to you again. The question is not, will God be good? The question is, will we? Will we pursue? Will we let go of something to take hold of more of him? Will we? Will we? Will we say no to our complacency? Will we just push against complacency? Will we acknowledge what might be our own complacency, our own staleness, our own I do it? Will we acknowledge it and say no to that? I will let go of that to take hold of Jesus. Will we do that? And if we do, there is this better, expanded, growing friendship with him, and there is a better hunger. You know what fasting does in part is it refines, it just tunes up. It just tunes up the hunger. Fasting, we get to grab a hold a little more of Jesus. We get more experience with him. We stack another memory on with him. And it may have been hard for part of the 21 days, but we stack the memory. And here's the reality. When we stack the memory and the relationship gets better, it's it leaves in us a more refined hunger. It leaves in us, we've cultivated this taste for more of him, this longing to be more with him, this desire to be more fully present with him. And that can remain. That can remain. Which means there's not as much room for hunger of what we've been grabbing a hold of before. Not as much hunger for temporary, fleeting, while maybe good, very passing things. Our hunger gets recalibrated. Becomes a little more refined, desiring the good things. Look what Jesus said. He's talking about food and spiritual food and how our souls get shaped and fed and get nutrients. In John chapter 6, he said, don't work for food that spoils. It's an analogy. Don't work for temporary things that are going to go away. They're good, enjoy them, but don't devote your whole life to them, and don't devote your spirit to them. Don't give up opportunities with me for them. Don't work for food that spoils, but for food that endures to eternal life, which the Son of Man, Jesus talking about himself, that's who's going to give that to you. Don't get so caught up holding on to fleeting, what's fleeting, so much that you can't grab a hold of me, because me and you, that's what's going to last. Me and you, that's what's going to be eternal. Me and you, that's what outlives all this other stuff that eventually does spoil, no matter how good it was. No matter how good it was. It's okay, let's lean in on that. Could we grab hold of this? Okay, so the question has to be, it says, okay, yes, for some breakthrough, but why would we do it? Let's put together a little bit this idea of why would Jesus ask us to do it? Why would he assume it? And why would we actually do it? Well, let's go back to this quote where we started. Let's remember what fasting is. Fasting is a physical expression of a spiritual longing. Fasting is a way that we communicate with our physical being, I want something more than what I currently have. And I will give up food as a way of saying to my body, you are not my boss. I have a greater king, and I want more of Jesus. And so I will say no to you for a season, not as a punishment, but as an opportunity. It's oh yeah, I want that. And then let me give you another one that maybe feels just a little more challenging, but maybe is most important. Fasting is a very necessary and positive violence. Now, I understand the day and the culture in which we live that I better explain that before that goes nuts on YouTube. Okay? So let's just talk about it for a second. Here's what we do have to understand. If we think about Jesus and the time between his death and his resurrection, when he is defeating Satan, and he is expressing his authority, And one writer in the New Testament even said in that moment, Jesus is making a public spectacle of Satan and all of his demons. You understand, right? That the window of time between Jesus' death, and actually including Jesus' death and his resurrection, is a violent time. You understand that it was a violent time? Do you understand that Jesus for us experienced violence and had to fight fiercely? A very real fight. And the reality is that while Jesus has won that, while we were on this earth, we are still fighting that with him. And your pursuit and engagement with Jesus is violently opposed. There is violence working against you. And it is not your least favorite political party. It is a very real Satan who leads a very real dark kingdom. In fact, could we go so far as to say in this moment that our resistance to fasting is part of violence directed at us, a spiritual violence directed at us? You are worth so much to Jesus that there is a violent spiritual fight for your life. And sometimes part of how we engage the fight is to, with a necessary, fierce, seemingly violent decision to say, I will let go of something physical and short and temporal because I will grab hold of more of Jesus. I will let go of one thing, and it will be at times painful. It will be at times agonizing. It will be at times awkward. It will be at times miserable, but I trust in the God of breakthrough. I trust in the Jesus who fought for me. And so I will push away from the edge of the pool because I would rather swim with Jesus. I would rather swim with Jesus. Look how Jesus described it. He literally described this tension of the kingdom. He said, from the days of John the Baptist until now, the kingdom of heaven has been subjected to violence, like violently opposed. And violent people have been raiding it or taking advantage, like pulling it in, right? There is an element where when we grab a hold of all God has for us, we are enacting a good violence to push against darkness and to push against opposition, to reach out and grab a hold of all that Jesus has for us and pull it in. And then the pulling it in is opposed and fought against. And then the clinging to is fought against and resisted. And we continue to live in that tension. And sometimes we have to make a decision to say a no to our own earthly desires that might feel violent. And that's okay. In fact, it's needed. It's needed. Now, in just a second, I want to hand this back to those of you in Middleville and in Cal and we're going to make a response together. But what I want to say to you is I need you. We need. I know that last 2 minutes was risky because I know culture has completely altered how we have a conversation around a word like that. But you just got to know and remember, you are in the midst of a very violent war. And fasting is one of the ways we fight back. Fasting is one of the ways we fight back. And so I want to just take a minute to respond to it. Middleville, I want to hand this back to you so we can respond to this in each location, but collectively. So let's take some moments and let's respond to this together. So those of you online, those of us in the room, it's decision time. It's just decision time. It's time to say, am I going to go all in? Am I going to go all in on what may be difficult and hard? Am I going to go all in on the fast? Am I going to go all in for 21 days? Will I give up something? Will I let go of something? I'm going to be letting go of a few things related to food. One of them is from Sunday kind of post-dinner to Monday dinner, that 24-hour window, just fasting. And some of you in a small group I'm in and some other friends, you've said, hey, you would do that with me. And I basically invited some people to do it for my own accountability. Just say, yeah, but please, somebody ask, right? What would you do? What would you do? If you go to our website, there's some fasting resources. If you go to jchurch.com/21days, there's some fasting resources and guides. But would you make a commitment? Say, for 21 days, I'll go all in with this. For 21 days, I will fight to let go of probably several things in order to grab hold of more of Jesus. It's not the easiest thing that Jesus has asked us to do. But if we trust him enough to violently fight for us, I think we can trust him enough to do good in something like this. I think we can.